Good morning. This is English Ned broadcasting to you on my YouTube channel as I try to do every day, at least once and maybe several times. I got yesterday, I recorded some pieces about social justice, which I'm very passionate about, and so it kind of exhausted me. And I had planned on doing some things that were a little bit lighter. So today I'm going to step back from that. I may have one or more two screeds in there, but I don't know if I'm going to put them down today. Today, at least the first thing I want to do is I want to read one of my favorite fairy stories from when I was a kid. It's one of the Brothers Grimm stories. And I'm doing this for my own kids who I haven't had enough time to read to so that they can be read to by me anytime they want. And also for all other children everywhere. And for you, if you haven't heard this story before, my sincere wish is that you never forget it after you hear English Ned telling it. You have to tell me. Anyway, this is called The Robber Bridegroom, and I do hope you enjoy it as much as I'm going to enjoy telling it to you. There was once a miller who had a beautiful daughter. When she grew up, he wanted her to get married and settled. He thought, if a suitable bridegroom comes and asks for my daughter, I will give her to him. Soon afterwards, a suitor came who appeared to be rich. And as the miller knew nothing against him, he promised his daughter to him. The maiden, however, did not like him as a bride ought to like her bridegroom, nor had she any faith in him. Whenever she looked at him or thought about him, a shudder came over her. One day he said to her, "You are my betrothed, and yet you have never been to see me." The maiden answered, "I don't even know where your house is." Then the bridegroom said, "My house is in the depths of the forest." She made excuses and said she could not find the way. The bridegroom answered, "Next Sunday you must come and see me without fail. I have invited some other guests, and so that you may be able to find the way, I will strew some ashes to guide you." When Sunday came and the maiden was about to start, she was frightened. She did not know why. So that she should be sure of finding her way back, she filled her pockets with peas and lentils. At the entrance to the forest, she found the track of ashes and followed it, but every step or two she scattered a few peas right and left. She walked nearly the whole day, right into the midst of the forest, where it was almost dark. Here she saw a solitary house, which she did not like. It was so dark and dismal. She went in, but found nobody, and there was dead silence. Now, there she is, strewing the peas about. Suddenly, a voice cried, turn back, thou bonny bride, nor in this house of death abide." The maiden looked up and saw that the voice came from a bird in a cage hanging on the wall. Once more it made the same cry, turn back, thou bonny bride, nor in this house of death abide." The beautiful bride went from room to room, all over the house, but they were all empty. Not a soul was to be seen. At last she reached the cellar, and there she found an old woman with a shaking head. "Can you tell me if my bridegroom lives here?" "Alas, poor child," answered the old woman, "little dost thou know where thou art. Thou art in a murderer's den. Thou thoughtest thou wast about to be married, but death will be thy marriage. See here, I have had to fill this kettle with water, and when they have thee in their power, they will kill thee without mercy and cook and eat thee, for they are eaters of human flesh. Till I take pity on thee and save thee, thee art lost." Then The old woman led her behind a great cask, where she could not be seen. "Be as quiet as a mouse," she said. "Don't stir, or all will be lost. Tonight, when the murderers are asleep, we will flee. I have long waited for an opportunity." Hardly had she said this when the riotous crew came home. They dragged another maiden with them, but as they were quite drunk, they paid no attention to her shrieks and lamentations. They gave her wine to drink, 3 glasses full, red, white, and yellow. After she had drunk them, she fell down dead. The poor bride, hidden behind the cask, was terrified. She trembled and shivered, for she saw plainly to what fate she was destined. One of the men noticed a gold ring on the little finger of the murdered girl, and as he could not pull it off, he took an axe and chopped the finger off. But it sprang up into the air and fell right into the lap of the bride behind the cask. The man took a light to look for it, but he could not find it. One of the others said, "Have you looked behind the big cask?" But the old woman called out, "Come and eat, and leave the search until tomorrow. The finger won't run away." The murderer said, "The old woman is right," and they gave up the search and sat down to supper. But the old woman dropped a sleeping draught into their wine, so they soon lay down, went to sleep, and snored lustily. So, when the bride heard them snoring, she came out from behind the cask, but she was obliged to step over the sleepers as they lay in rows on the floor. She was dreadfully afraid of touching them, but God helped her, and she got through without mishap. The old woman went with her and opened the door, and they hurried away as quickly as they could from this vile den. All the ashes had been blown away by the wind, but the peas and lentils had taken root and shot up and showed them the way in the moonlight. They walked the whole night and reached the mill in the morning. The maiden told her father all that she had been through. When the day which had been fixed for the wedding came, the bridegroom appeared, and the miller invited all his friends and relations. As they sat at table, each one was asked to tell some story. The bride was very silent, but when it came to her turn, the bridegroom said, "Come, my love, have you nothing to say? Pray tell us something." "I will tell you a dream I have had," she answered. "I was walking alone in the wood, and I came to a solitary house where not a soul was to be seen. A cage was hanging on the wall of one of the rooms, and in it there was a bird which cried, 'Turn back, thou bonny bride, nor in this house of death abide.'" It repeated the same words twice. This was only a dream, my love. I walked through all the rooms, but they were all empty and dismal. At last, I went down to a cellar, and there sat a very old woman with a shaking head. I asked her, "Does my bridegroom live here?" She answered, "Alas, you poor child, you are in a murderer's den. Your bridegroom indeed lives here, but he will cut you to pieces, cook you, and eat you." This was only a dream, my love. Then the old woman hid me behind a cask, but hardly had she done so when the murderers came home, dragging a maiden with them. They gave her 3 kinds of wine to drink, red, white, and yellow, and after drinking them, she fell down dead. My love, I was only dreaming this. Then they took her things off and cut her to pieces. My love, I was only dreaming. One of the murderers saw a gold ring on the girl's little finger, and as he could not pull it off, he chopped off the finger. but the finger bounded into the air and fell behind the cask upon my lap. "Here is the finger with the ring." At these words she produced the finger and shouted to the company. When the bridegroom heard these words, he turned as pale as ashes and tried to escape. But the guests seized him and handed him over to justice. And he and all his band were executed for their crimes.